Everybody, my name is Grace, and today I'm going to read another part of Christmas Carol, part 3. In part 2 of the Christmas Carol, Scrooge is visited by the changed ghost of Jacob Marley. Marley warns Scrooge that he will be visited by 3 spirits who may help him avoid a similar fate if he is willing to listen. When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark that looking out of bed, he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from the opaque walls of his chamber. He was endeavoring to pierce the darkness of his ferret eyes, when the chimes of a neighboring church struck the 4 quarters. So he listened for the hour. To his great astonishment, the heavy bell went on, from 6 to 7, from 7 to 8, and regularly up to 12, then stopped. 12. It was past 2 when he went to bed. The clock was wrong. An icicle must have got into its works. 12. He touched the spring of his pocket watch to correct his preposterous clock. Its rapid little pulse beat 12 and stopped. Why, it isn't possible, said Scrooge, that can sleep through a whole day and fall into another night. It isn't possible that anything has happened to the sun. And this is 12 at noon. The idea of being an alarming one, he scrambled out of bed and groped his way into the window. He obligated to rub the frost off of his sleeve of his dressing gown before he could see anything, and could see very little then. All he could make out was it was still very foggy and extremely cold. There was no noise of people running to and fro. As there unquestionably would have been if night had beaten off the bright day. Scrooge had went to bed again, and thought it over and over and over, and could make nothing of it. The more he thought, the more perplexed he was, and the more he endeavored not to think. The more he thought, more his ghost bothered him exceedingly. Every time he resolved that it was all a dream, his mind flew back into its first position and presented the same problem. Was it a dream or not? Scrooge lay in this state until the chimes had gone 3 quarters more, when he remembered that the ghost had warned him of the visitation when the bell tolled 1. He resolved to lie awake until the hour was past, considering he could no more go to sleep than go to heaven. This was perhaps the wisest resolution in his power. The corridor was so long that he was more than convinced he must have sunk into a doze unconsciously, and missed the clock. At length it broke in upon his listening ear. Ding dong. 1 quarter past, said Scrooge, counting. Ding, ding dong. 1/2 past, said Scrooge. Ding dong. 1 quarter to 8, said Scrooge. Ding dong. 1 hour itself, said Scrooge, triumphantly, and nothing else. He spoke before the hour bell sounded, which now, with a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy one, the light splashed up in the room and upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn. The curtains of the bed were drawn aside. I tell you, by hand, not curtains at his feet, nor curtains at his back, but those to which his face was addressed. The curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew him. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium. This gave him the appearance of having receded from the view and being diminished into a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down his back, white as it was his age, and the face had not a wrinkle in it. The arms were very long and muscular, their hands of the same, as if hold were uncommon strength. His legs and feet, most delicately formed, were like those upper members bare. A quarter tunic of purest white, and round its waist was a bound, luxurious belt, the sheen of which was beautiful. It had a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, and singular contradiction of wintry album, and its dress trimmed with summer flowers. But the strangest thing about it was the crown of his hair there. Sprung a bright, clear jet of light, which was all its purpose visible. It held under its arm a cap, purpose being extinguished the light emanating from his head. Even this, though Scrooge looked at it with increasing steadiness, it was not its strangest quality, for as his belt sparkled and glittered now in one part and now in the other, and what was light one instant, another time was dark, the figure itself fluctuated in its distinctness, being now thin with one arm, now with one leg, now with 20 legs, now with a pair of legs without a head, now a head without a body, and in the very one of this it would be itself again, distinct and clear as ever. Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was too foretold me? Said Scrooge. I am. The voice was soft and gentle, singularly low, as it, instead of being so close beside him, it were at a distance. Who and what are you? I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past? Inquired Scrooge, observant of his dwarfish stature. No, your past. Scrooge has a special desire to see the spirit in his cap. Beg him to be discovered. What? exclaimed the ghost. Would you so soon put out, with worldly hands, the light I give? It's not enough that you're the one of those whose passions made this cap, and you forced me through the whole trains of these years to wear it low upon my brow. Scrooge fervently disclaimed all the intention to offend the spirit at any period of his life. He then made bold inquiry what business brought him there. Your welfare, said the ghost. Scrooge expressed himself much obligated, but could not help thinking that may have been a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end. The spirit must have heard him thinking, for it said immediately, Draw reclamation, then, take heed. It put out his strong hand as he spoke, and clasped him gently by the arm. Rise, walk with me. It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted to pedestrian purposes, or that the bed was warm and the thermometer was long way below freezing, or that he was clad but lightly in his slippers, dressing gown, and nightcap, and he had a coat upon him at that time. The grasp, too gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding the spirit made towards the window, clasped his throat in supplication. I am mortal, Scrooge demonstrated, and liable to fall. But bear but a touch of my hand there, said the spirit, laying upon his heart, and you shall be upheld in more than this. As the words were spoken, they passed through a wall and stood upon an open country road, with fields on either land. The city had entirely vanished. No vestige of it was to be seen. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day, with snow upon the ground. Good heaven, said Scrooge, clapping his hands together as he looked about him. I was bred in this place. I was a boy here. The spirit gazed upon him mildly. His gentle touch, though it had been light and instantaneous, appeared to present the old man's sense of feeling. He was conscious of thousands odors floating in the air, each one connected with a thousand thoughts and hopes and joys and long, long forgotten. Your lip is trembling, said the ghost, and what is that upon your cheek? Scrooge muttered, with an unusual catching in his voice, that it was a pimple, and begged the ghost to lead him where he would. You recollect the way? Inquired the spirit. Remember it, cried Scrooge with a fervour. I could walk it blindfold. Strange to have forgotten for so many years, observed the ghost. Let us go on. They walked along the road, Scrooge recognizing every gate and post and tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and winding river. Some shaggy ponies were seen trotting towards them with a boy upon their backs, who called to other boys in country gigs and carts. Driven by farmers, all these boys were in great spirits, and shouted to each other until the broad fields were full of merry music. The crisp air laughed to hear it. These are but shadows of the things that have been, said the ghost. They have no consciousness of us. The jolly travellers came on, and as they came, Scrooge knew that the name and named them everyone. Why was he rejoiced beyond bounds to see them? Why did his cold eyes glisten? Why did his heart leap up when they went past? Why was he filled with gladness when he heard them give each other Merry Christmas and parted at crossroads and byways for their several homes? Why was Merry Christmas to Scrooge? Other upon Merry Christmas, what good had it ever done to him? The school is not quite deserted, said the ghost. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still. Scrooge said he knew it, and he sobbed. They left the high road by a well-remembered lane, and soon approached a mansion of dull red brick, with a little weather-vane Samottic cupola on the roof, and a bell hanging in it. It was a large house, but one of the broken fortunes for the spacious office were little used. The walls were damp and mossy, the windows broken, and the gates decayed. Fowls chuckled and strutted in the stables, and coach houses with sheds were overrun with glass. Nor was it more representative of an ancient state within, for entering the dreary hall and glancing through the open doors of many rooms, they found them poorly furnished, cold and vast. There was an earthy savour in the air, a chilly brownness in the place which associated itself somehow with too much getting up by candlelight, and not too much to eat. They went, and the Scrooge and the ghost, across the hall, to a door at the back of the house. It opened before them, and disclosed a long, bare, melancholy room. made better still by lines of plain deal forms and desks. And while this lonely boy was reading near a feeble fire, and Scrooge sat down and wept to see his poor forgotten self as he used to be. So I will stop right here and I will see you on the next time to finish the Christmas Carol. Goodbye!